What's up, YouTube? Welcome to the Boeckle Bros channel where we talk all things real estate. I'm Jesse.
And I'm Landon. And on today's episode, we're going to talk about the top 5 major items to look for when flipping a property. When purchasing a flip property, there's 2 analyses that have to be done that dictate the profitability of the deal.
That's right. These are the 2 major items. First would be analyzing the market conditions to help you understand your purchase price of the property. And second would be actually looking at the condition of the property to know how much it's going to take to rehab it.
Right. Today, we're going to talk about the repair costs and estimating the cost of the remodel to make sure that you look out for these top 5 major items that could potentially kill the deal or cause you a loss of profit.
Okay, so our first major expense is the roof of the property. Now, the roof is actually pretty visual. You can just get up there and look at it, and it's going to show you whether it's bad or not.
Right. Roofs typically go bad from years and years of weather conditions hitting it, being rained on, the wind blowing it around. This causes years of wear and tear. And roofs, they're very expensive.
Right. So if you get up there and you look at your roof and you see shingles are blown off, if you see actual wood and plywood underneath the roofing material, those are some signs that your roof has already gone through some pretty bad damage.
Yeah, so let's talk about the 2 different types of roof that we commonly see, at least here in our market.
Sure.
The first is a composite shingle roof. Now, these roofs typically are on the lower to median income price homes. So a composite shingle roof is going to be the cheaper of the repairs between the 2 roofs, but it also takes on more damages and doesn't last as long as the clay or concrete tile roofs that you see on those higher price point homes.
Right. Those are the 2 major roof types that we find out here in the Las Vegas market. And you mentioned a really good point is that one lasts a lot longer than the other.
Right.
And they definitely have different costs associated with one versus the other.
Sure. So the composite shingle roof, depending on the square footage, is going to average you a $7,000 minimum to $15,000 to $20,000 cost of replacement on a larger home.
Right.
These are major costs when flipping a home and not budgeting them into that initial budget.
So that one on the lower end could be a couple $1,000, maybe 5, 6, 7, like you said, but depending on the size can go up to 20.
Right.
Now, what about for a tile roof?
So the clay tile roof, although they are much sturdier and stronger, they're also a lot more expensive to repair.
A lot more.
So if you're seeing major leaks from inside the property with a clay or concrete tile roof, you have a lot of costs on your hand that you definitely want to take into account.
Right.
And we're talking costs. We're talking a $20,000 minimum replacement up to $30,000 to $40,000 for a larger home.
It can get pretty crazy because larger homes, higher end homes tend to have those types of roofs, and it's a lot of square footage up there.
It's a lot to replace, and it's a major cost. So if you're looking at a property and you're walking through the interior of the home, make sure you take a close look at the ceilings throughout to check for any stains. And a lot of the times the sellers will paint those stains over so you don't notice them. So make sure you keep an eye out for that.
Right. Watch out for it because that may be indicative of a larger problem up on top of the house where the roof is.
Our best suggestion when walking a property that you suspect has major roof damage is always to call in a licensed professional roofer.
Yes. Also, it's pretty dangerous getting up on a roof, so let the professionals do the job.
Yeah. So the second major system that we commonly deal with and is very expensive is the HVAC system on a property.
Yes.
So the HVAC system typically lasts about 10 to 15 years per average system. So if you're buying a home that's a little bit older and it doesn't look like the system's been replaced, you're probably buying a house where it's on its last leg.
Especially out here, again, we're in Las Vegas, but anywhere in the United States, the Southwest United States, is going to experience super hot summers, and it's going to tax those HVAC units more than a unit that might be in the Midwest.
We deal with HVAC systems a lot, and they're not cheap. A typical HVAC system is $4,000 to $5,000 per unit, and a lot of homes have 2 or more units on them.
Right. Even larger custom homes, you're talking 4 or 5 units in a house with split systems, and one HVAC bill to replace those could be $20,000, $30,000.
Right. So some quick tips to determine whether HVAC system's working properly on the flip is simple. Go to the thermostat and kick it on. If you'll hear it turn on right away, and if it doesn't turn on right away, that's a telltale sign that it's just not working.
Right.
And I know it seems simple, but a lot of people walk through properties on their initial walks and they don't check the thermostats to see if they work.
It might be comfortable out, it might be nice that day, but make sure you always think about it and remember to turn it on, and it should respond right away.
Yeah. Another way to do it is to simply look at the system. If it looks really old, remember they only last a certain amount of time. You want to ask the age of the system by the seller, and if it's 15 years or older, it's probably going to need to be budgeted into your rehab cost.
You should be able to see some telltale signs just by walking up to it. A lot of times for older units, you'll actually see rust accumulate on the top and around the sides of it. So just generally take a common sense look. Does this thing look old or does it look fairly new? So our third major expense is plumbing. Plumbing can be really bad, actually. Depending on the severity of the problem, it can get super expensive.
It can. So a lot of the plumbing that we're talking about that causes these major issues is cast iron plumbing.
And you're gonna find that on older homes.
Right. Typically homes at 1980 or older have cast iron plumbing. Problem with cast iron is over the years, it's rusted and deteriorates under the ground or under the slab of the house.
Yeah.
So you can imagine to pull up the slab of the home or to dig it up from underground, it gets pricey.
So it's not easy to get to. And the thing about plumbing is it's everywhere in the house. You have bathrooms and kitchen and laundry. So plumbing pipes are going to almost every room in the house.
The easiest way to check the plumbing through the house on your first initial due diligence walk is simply run all the fixtures throughout. Run the showers, run the sinks, and let them run for about 10 minutes all at the same time. Now, hopefully this doesn't cause a huge backup or drainage issue in the home, but also at the same time, it'll be a really good telltale sign whether you have a drainage problem or not.
Right. Every sink, every faucet that you're running, you should actually be able to see the water go down and nothing build up and hopefully not start to overflow. That's a telltale sign you have a plumbing issue.
Yep. These plumbing issues that we're talking about could cost $10,000, $20,000 plus to replumb a house, especially if it's a cast iron plumbing where you got to go all the way to the main drain to do the entire house.
Definitely something you want to take the time to look at, take the time to run the faucets and watch the drains, and hopefully avoid this issue altogether.
One of the best things you can do is if you do run the faucets on that initial walk and you see a little bit of backup, don't hesitate to call in a licensed plumber to have them send a microscope or a camera down the drains to see if there's true blockage or corroded plumbing.
Yeah, that can actually be fun. Sometimes you find some interesting things down the drains.
Okay, so the fourth major expense when determining the repair cost of a home that you don't want to forget about is the water heater. Now, it's not a huge price point item, but it can cause a lot of damage if it goes south and explodes on you.
Absolutely. So price point wise, if you do have to replace a water heater because it's old, it doesn't work, or it's failed, you're probably looking at about $1,000 cost, give or take a couple $100. That's what you're looking at for a new water heater install.
Right, and a little bit of information towards a water heater. Typical lifespan's about 10 years on a water heater, and the date's typically right on the sticker on the side.
You can almost find it always written in Sharpie from the actual installer, or it's printed there on the tag on the side of the water heater.
Exactly. Some other telltale signs of a water heater that's gone bad is take a look at the valves on top and the fittings on top. If they're rusted and corroded, it's probably a good sign that there's leaking going on within the water heater and it needs replacement.
Same thing for the bottom of the water heater too, because that's where a lot of sediment gets trapped and it actually can cause a lot of corrosion from the bottom and fail that way as well.
One of the biggest damaging items a water heater can do is to actually burst, which happens very often, and then floods that specific room of the house. This is where a lot of the damage and extra costs can come into play that you don't budget initially, and that could really put you under in the end.
Right. It throws water everywhere, and now you got water damage, your drywall's wet, and it becomes a whole much bigger issue.
So it's simple. Check the water heater. Does the pilot light on the bottom of the water heater? Are the fittings rusted or corroded? And what's the age of the unit?
Another way to actually test it and see if it's even functioning is similar to the plumbing. Go and turn on all those faucets that we told you to turn on. Turn those showers to test the drains, but turn them on hot and see if all of them produce hot water.
Before we hit that fifth major expense, go ahead and let's hit that YouTube algorithm and find that like button on your screen and go ahead and smash that like button.
Don't forget to hit subscribe as well. Now, let's get into item number 5. And that 5th item is windows. Windows are something also pretty visible, so you're gonna be able to walk up to the window and pretty much see what's going on, whether they're old or they have damage or not.
Yeah, the problem with windows is they really affect the energy efficiency of a home. So if they're old single pane windows, a lot of the times the buyers are gonna want them replaced and inspectors are gonna nail you for it.
Buyers are probably gonna look at them in the terms of security as well, because older windows are definitely not as safe as something newer.
Right, and they just don't bring it. They don't bring the value new energy efficient windows bring. So you actually get appraisal value for them as well if they're new.
So an easy way to tell if your window is old and needs replacement or does have damage is to actually look at the lining of the window. So older windows are made of metal, aluminum, and that will start to rust and corrode.
Right, also, just take a quick look at it. Is the window broken or cracked in any way?
Right, the glass is gonna show you whether you need to replace that or not. And overall, it's a pretty easy thing to detect.
Yeah, so a window to replace is typically between $350 to $600 per window for a replacement.
For standard windows, and these are pretty square windows you find on almost any wall of the home. Now, the newer windows are actually made of really cool materials that last a lot longer, and they actually look a lot brighter and fresh. So they're made of vinyl. You see white lining around the new style windows, and that's a vinyl window.
They're also dual pane and energy efficient because they put a chemical between the two panes that blocks the energy or the light from coming in and heating the whole house up. So we're warning you, do not overlook these 5 major expenses when walking your potential flip deals.
And don't say we didn't tell you. This could make the difference between a huge win or a bad loss.
That's right.
We hope this video was super helpful in giving you the confidence that you need to estimate your repair costs on your next flip.
That's right. Smash that like button and subscribe to our channel for more real estate content. If you have any questions, make sure to drop them below. And until then,
We'll see you on the flip side.